Um, I want to say this real quickly. I'm not going to make this a long one. I found some other things that I want to comment on that you might like better than what I'm about to say. It might make more sense. But I got to say this, even though for some of you it's not going to make a lot of sense. There is a difference between history and culture. A lot of people think that history gives them a culture. And in a way, it does if they keep culture within their history. Then, yes, history gives them a culture. If they keep the culture within the history, okay? So, um, there's a difference, okay? History is everybody within a certain thing or a certain place, okay, that kept on going and going and going and going and going, and now you live to tell and go back in time and understand how history has changed. But culture is your genealogy and your geography, okay, and how that has remained throughout history to be the same. Let me say that again. Culture is your genealogy and your geography throughout history as it never changed. So, let's say white and black folks. There were things that happened during slavery that white people can thank black people for. But today, some white folks act like it's just private history. And it was never a part of culture. Like, for example, something simple like sweet potato pie. Okay, sweet potato pie, okay, has been a part of culture back in the day. Now, today, it's more a part of black culture than it is culture in general. But back in the day, when we were going through slavery, it was a part of culture in general. And there are a lot of old white people, okay, for example, that will make you a good sweet potato pie. Some of them don't know that exactly where it came from. They know that they were taught it. And they're trying to figure out why you need a black person to show you how to make a sweet potato pie. Why you need a black person to show you how to not get the sweet potato pie and the pumpkin confused. That's the difference between cultures changing. That's a very slight, nobody's going to lose sleep over it way that culture, okay, has been swept under the rug. But there's bigger things, okay, let's say amongst black folks and white folks that white folks and black folks should be in trouble for. The beginning of rock and roll, okay? The beginning of R&B music and how black folks and white folks stole from each other without giving each other credit for where the music came from. We've taken the music of Elvis Presley and turned it into R&B. Okay? And we've turned some of the soul music in the past and turned it into rock and roll to make it sound more white. Okay? And then someone basically proved to me that if you go further before what we call today R&B, black folks had also done rock and roll. Rock and roll started with black folks, from what I hear. Now that didn't sound like, the Beatles, okay? But Buddy Holly, that didn't sound like R&B either. You see what I'm saying? But these things get swept up under the rug, okay? And there's a lot of copying. There's a lot of syncopation and cover up by black folks for what white people have done. And there's a lot of copying and sampling from white folks from what used to belong to black folks. And it's okay because we are all here Americans. We are all Americans. We are all Americans here. We should share. But just give each other the credit for what we're sharing. Oh, if this came from here, then be honest and say that it came from here. We don't mind doing that to other immigrants like Indians and Arabs. Okay? We will give them compliments for what they brought to the U.S. as immigrants. And then a lot of these people will turn around and terrorize us. Okay, when we've given them enough room to be arrogant. Okay? Mexican culture in the U.S. has never really been given other than food. And other than maybe, pulling a little bit of this and that out of the music industry. Okay, and adding the sounds of Mexico into, rock and roll and R&B. But other than walking past a number of restaurants in certain parts of, Western, America, okay, there's really no culture that we can honestly say this is Mexican culture. Okay? And so the truth be told, same thing with Asians. Asians have yet to to share with us the truth about their cultures. They have yet to share with us the truth about their cultures, okay, that we give them room and space to share, but they don't. Okay, Native Americans, they want to keep their culture defined away from ours until they want to blow the horn and entertain us with their culture and try to make us wish that they have something, try to make us wish because they want us to think that they have something that we cannot obtain. When we practice every pagan religion here in America that exists, somebody is practicing it. And it doesn't matter if it's white, black, Indian, Spanish, Asian, you name it. We practice everything here in America of every culture, except for those things that are hidden for a specific reason. And to hide someone's culture from, the front is almost like, giving them a bad name or not treating them fairly. Everybody's culture, if there's anything good that can come out of it, we should let it shine. Okay? And everybody's culture, if there's anything bad that comes out of it that is not fit for America, then we should let it be hidden. But there's a lot of good to everybody. There's good to black people. There's good to Native Americans. There's good coming out of Indian and Arabs. There's good that comes out of Mexico and Mexican culture. But some things we hide. Okay? Because, I don't know, maybe we're afraid we can't fit it all, or maybe we're trying to please too many people. I don't know. But, the way we eat Chinese food here in America is different than the way the average Chinese family eats Chinese food. And Chinese people have said this out of their own mouths. They don't feed their families the way they feed you when you walk into a restaurant. They make excuses as to why they throw everything in one bowl instead of letting you choose what you want to mix together and what you want to keep separate. Now, moving on. Let me move to something more sinister, something more deep, something more, unattractive, uninteresting, something that could get me flagged. Homosexuality is not culture. Homosexuality and transgenderism is the history, of the downfall of the sexual revolution. First of all, when you say the word sexual revolution, that is mundane, pagan, and a fallen state right there. Because you don't need a revolution, for men and women sexually. You need a revolution to go topless. You need a revolution, to be gay. You need a revolution, to practice more and more adultery. You need a revolution to, give condoms to children. You need a revolution, for transgenderism and, telling yourself that a man can be a woman, a real woman. You need a revolution for that. So when we say the word revolution, we're already rebelling against what is normal. Homosexuality and transgenderism is not a culture of anything in America. It is the downfall of the so-called sexual revolution, which shouldn't be there in the first place. There's no such thing as a sexual revolution. I know I say that a lot, but there's no such thing as a sexual revolution. What the sexual revolution is America trying to revolutionize sex between men and women, to be something it never was before. The day we said the word, the phrase, sexual revolution, we were already practicing paganism right there. There is no sexual revolution. Men sleeping with women doesn't need to be revolutionized. Paganism needs to be revolutionized because it is pagan. So, there's a difference between culture and history. The culture of the church, okay, is Protestantism. The culture of the church is to keep our bodies under subjection and not practice fornication. That's some strange thunder, boy. Never heard it like that. The culture of the church is revolutionizing those that are lost, those that have been abused and shut in, those that don't know the Lord need to be delivered and reconciled back into the hands of God. Okay? They need to be broken. So you might be able to call that a revolution. Okay? Because without the church, who is going to show you the Lord? Since we expect to hear from God, but we don't hear God, we don't see God. Only the church believes that they see and hear God. And yes, we do 100%. We believe that we hear and see God in you and everything around us except the revolution of paganism. Okay? America is not whatever we make it at any given moment that we make it. America is a culture. It is a culture, and I don't know if to thank the white people that have went through the whole slavery trial, and the power behind slavery and the capitalism behind it built this country, or if to give the credit to those that have worked on their backs and sacrificed their families to provide for their families. They sacrificed their families and their marriages to provide for their families. It's a sad circle that we're in and that we've been in for years. But I don't know who to give the credit to, because we can't say everybody needs to make a certain amount of money. We can't make the rich and the poor equal. We would have no country and we would have no money if we did that. And we would have no workers to work this country if we did that, which that's one of the things that the Democratic Party is trying to do eventually, is to destroy the work world and control people by their needs instead of letting people, okay, find their way to support and help their own needs by having their own power, money, and space. But what do we want to do in a Democratic Party? We want to make everybody needy to the government. That is not the culture of the United States. We've never been a nation of a bunch of needy people out there protesting until lately, out there protesting for every little thing we want. And the thing we want is to be needy and to be dependent on those that enslave us. This is not right. Okay? We need to squash our feelings that we get from suffering and feeling like a victim and being lied to and told that we're victims. We need to squash that and bring ourselves to a place of individualism, okay, in a place of mediocrity, okay, and beyond it. Our pride should not be about homosexuality, but it should be about America as a whole and the patriotism that goes with it. Homosexuality is not pride. Homosexuality is mundane. It is the fallen state. Transgenderism is not pride. It's the fallen state. When men think that they can be women, that it's easier to be women because they don't want to do what's right to be men, we have fallen very low. We have fallen very low. When you wake up in the morning and you think that it's wrong and it's mundane how God created you, you hate the body and the gender that God placed you in. We have fallen from grace. We are in big trouble. We are in big trouble. And now we go to work every day and we're separated, and this is where I close. We're separated by culture, but we don't know what those cultures are anymore. I do. And as a black man that doesn't really believe that he's African, I don't believe that I have a country to go back to. And I'm okay with African people when they don't like me. Because number one, there's no proof that I am African because everybody in America, including white people, as pale as you can find them, have African DNA. Means nothing. And just because you're black, that doesn't mean that you have more African DNA than a white person. You need to look this stuff up. We are not really African, in my godly biblical opinion. We passed through Africa. That's why they sold us as slaves. Okay? And during slavery, many Africans, because of that, were prosperous. And I don't hate. I'm not mad. I'm not butthurt over it. It's over. I wasn't here anyway. However, okay, as a black man who doesn't feel he has a country to go back to, I have chosen my culture. And the culture that I have chosen is the cultures that started this nation. If you can't beat them, join them. If you're going to beat them, be better than them. If you feel that this culture is the culture that have stolen from everybody and taken slaves of everybody, then how do you beat them? You can't beat them and have a war because you have not educated yourself like that. You can't beat them and slaughter them because you live in the same house. You are brothers and sisters having scruples and having tantrums against each other in your own house. We live here together. We're not in our own countries. We're not trying to kick you out of our own country. But we are here together. Okay? Struggling together. Becoming rich together. Okay? And raising our kids in the same schools and in the same churches while we hate each other. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't get better until we stop the madness. That is not culture. white folks against black folks, vice versa, black folks against white folks, and white folks against black folks, okay, is not culture. And I agree with Jesse Lee Peterson that when we first begin to be free, we enjoyed our freedom until we begin to struggle with the Jim Crow laws, which I disagree with some conservatives that will sit there and say that it wasn't white people that supported Jim Crow, and they made the biggest boo-boo you could ever admit. But see, white folks will admit that they made a mistake with Jim Crow. They'll admit it didn't work. It didn't help society. Okay? And before these people died and went to their grave, they accepted that slavery and Jim Crow was a mistake. It should have never happened. But yet we have a culture of people out there that can't forgive. We have a culture of people out there who think it is their job to fight a war that does not exist. We have our freedom now. Okay? And we are too far ahead to be any longer profiled. Sure, they try to profile us. But how long does that last? How easy is that to overcome? Okay? Those that practice racism, those that really practice racism, those that really try to segregate, lose eventually. And very quickly, they lose. But those that try and think of America instead of black and white in any other race, instead of looking at race, they think of America. We are all here together as one. We're in this together. But yet we're losing money. We're wasting the time of our children and their education. Okay, for two things. War, okay, and mundane lifestyles. And third of all, hatred for God and disrespect for God. We are losing. And while we're sitting here playing the race card with each other and hating each other about race in the past, when we all get up in the morning and we buy our food, we don't buy our food from the black supermarket or the white supermarket. We go to whatever hillbilly or supermarket in the black community that we live next to, and we go buy our milk and our bread and our eggs and our cheese from there, just like all of us do. It doesn't matter if somebody in the supermarket doesn't like us. That doesn't stop us from buying fresh eggs. It doesn't matter if the guy that just shot up a local school is in that supermarket, or about ready to shoot up a local school is in that supermarket. Life goes on. And there are truly crimes of white people and truly crimes of black people. Okay? The numbers, I'll let you decide. But both are wrong. And I'm not one to criticize one without criticizing the other. Now, how do I stop this madness? You can only stop it by one Christian at a time. Okay? Because God has to be involved in our lives to help us in a fallen state, because we are deeply in trouble in a fallen state. It's already a fallen state. We're not going into a fallen state. We are a fallen state right now as I speak. Okay? God has to help us. We can't do this alone. And we have to help each other. We can't play the race card every time it's a black man or it's a white man that got shot or killed or shot or killed somebody else. We have to accept that these crimes are done against America and Americans are doing these crimes. And the whole world is watching us from the other nations and clowning us on TV and in their news programs and in their YouTube channels and so forth. They're clowning Americans. They're clowning white people. They're clowning black people. While they make plans to throw nuclear bombs on us. But we forget that we are Americans. If you felt that you were from Africa, you should have left a long time ago. If you feel that the Africans have more respect for you than your white counterpart, you should have left a long time ago. Okay? And I just was watching videos today, and I did a video earlier today on this channel. No, not on this channel, on my business channel. I did a video talking about how one nation has the wrong interpretation of America. One of the things that we do in America is we take one group of people because of the color of their skin and we judge all the rest of the people in that group. One group of white people do this, black people will judge all white people. One group of black people do this, white people will judge all black people. Okay? We need to judge people by their character. Okay? And their determination. And what they can do for this country. Not by what their cousins have done wrong or what their classmates have done wrong. But each man is judged by his own sins and his own work and his own goodness. That's culture. There is an American culture. American culture is all of us. It's not black people. It's not white people. It's not Mexicans. It's not Native Americans. It's all of us. You need to find out what that is. America means that all of us are here together practicing our cultures and blending our cultures together to make American culture. We should be mixing racially. We should be mixing by the way we cook and eat. We should be mixing city to city, state to state. We should be mixing as one culture. It's good that we're all different races and that we're all different, but we need to embrace each other for the goodness. You don't have to eat chitlins to embrace black people. You don't have to like rap music to embrace black people. Neither do black people have to like country music or rock music to embrace white people. Mexicans can be Mexicans. Native Americans need to get their butt off the reservation and quit hiding from everybody. Did I say Native Americans? Native Americans need to get their butt off the reservation and blend in with everybody, okay? Christian Native Americans have no problem with this, but these ones that are around the fire, okay, they still hold on to a grudge. But I know and have met many Christian Native Americans that understand that God does not want them to be isolated up in the hills. Come down here and love your enemies, the people you think are your enemies. Come down here, quit isolating yourself. And that goes for everybody. And we live in a culture where we should be blending marriage wise and family wise. We should be blending blood. If the blood of an Indian person, okay, can save a black man, an Indian woman marrying a black man might save his life as well, and vice versa. You name it. But we need to stop isolating ourselves and segregating ourselves and be the American culture that one nation under God is supposed to be. I am DeRoy Cruz. I am your life applications officer. Thank you for your time and attention. Hope you learned something. God bless you. See you soon with more. God bless.